Okay, so before we start anything in Fusion, it's important to note the job status of the current software. So what I need you to do is just have a look at the top right, have a look at the clock face there. If you see a number by the icon, what you need to do is click that and it will either say that it's Fusion is installing, or it will tell you to restart Fusion. So what I need you to do is restart that. If you don't do that, you might not be able to save. You might not be able to save to the cloud. You might be working offline, and worst case scenario is you've done loads and loads of work. You can't apply the features, and then the whole thing crashes. So make sure you're up to date. So the overall exercise is to take a sketch of a product, in this case a carrier bag holder. We're going to put that into Fusion. We're going to create the solid version of that with all the features. Then we're going to shell it, split that, and going to add features that would suggest that it has been die cast or injection molded. And then we're actually going to create the molds for that as well. So it's a fairly lengthy tutorial that will probably need to be split up into two parts. In order for you to start, you're going to need a decent outline of the product's shape, and you might want to have two views, so a side view and maybe a front view, just to get the 3D profile. You're going to need sizes. They don't need to be absolute sizes, but a good idea within, let's say, 10mm tolerance would be quite good. So if you've designed it and you've drawn it, then you shouldn't have a problem. If you've modeled it, that would be even better, because you'll know the exact sizes. So I'm using 120 millimeters from there to there, okay, and I've actually marked those out. The rest are just question marks, not a problem. Here I've got my height as being 50 millimeters. Once you've got this, you're going to need to take a photograph or scan it and put that onto the same computer that you're using Fusion from. So we've seen the object that we want to draw, and now the first thing is to get that object into the Fusion workspace. So what we're going to do, go to Insert, Canvas. You're going to select the canvas, and we're going to place it on the right side, because the view that I've got, I'm going to say, was the right hand side. Okay, and then just plop it in there. Now if we have a look directly at the canvas, we can actually see the shape that I drew. And the first thing we're going to do is just have a look at the size and calibrate it. So on the left hand side, drop that menu down so that you can actually select, secondary click or right click, calibrate. And I said that this distance here, it was 120 millimeters. So click that and click that, and then type in 120. Of course, you would put in whatever measurement you've got. Insert once again, canvas. From there, select, and this time we're going to put it onto the front plane because it's the front view. And have a look at the front view. This is the second one that we put in, so it's the one below. Right click or secondary click, calibrate, and it's about there to there, and I want that to be 50, but I know that it's actually 51 if we have a look at the next one. What we really want is this red line, so that's our datum of 0, to be right through the center of that, and it is quite important that you do that now rather than later. So edit that canvas and just slide it across until you're happy, and then I'm going to look at a 3D view just to make sure that we're in line. And it would be good, I think, if that was just dropped down a little bit, so you can see that the bottom of that is now at the bottom of that, and the top of that is around the top of that. They're a bit confusing at the moment, so let's go to edit, and we're just going to drop that down so we can barely see it, but we do need to see it a bit. And we're going to actually do the same for this one, the main one. So let's edit that and drop that down so we can barely see it, and it just helps us to see what's going on. So there's a few ways to draw this. I guess the more traditional way, or the way that people are used to, is to draw that as a sketch extrude and then round the edges. And the problem with doing that is you end up with very, very blocky products that have rounded edges. This is more of an organic shape, so therefore we really want to treat it like clay. We want to be making it out of clay, something that we can manipulate easily and that doesn't really have straight lines. So we're going to use the form tool as opposed to the sketch tool. So if you don't see this form tool, the create form tool, you need to go to the create button here, and you'll see it there, create form. And the form we're going to do is a quad ball. We're going to try and get it in the middle of the fattest part. Okay, so that's a little bit fat, and so that should be okay, I think. All right, and once that's done, you can go. Okay, now we're going to have a look round. So I normally press shift and then middle mouse button, or of course shift and 2 fingers on the mouse pad if you're on your Mac. Okay, so now you can see that that ball is right in the center of that product. So now what we're going to do is going to move these around. We're going to stretch them out, and then we're going to take this one, we're going to stretch this one out. And we do want to do it symmetrical. So instead of me having to keep on clicking both sides, we're going to create a mirror line. So I'm just going to click home, zoom in. We're going to go symmetry, and we're going to select the mirror, the internal. Now we're going to select this side, and then I'm going to say its reflection is that side. And that means if the reflection is that side, then of course the mirror plane must be in the middle of those two. Now, of course, I could do that one and that one, and that one and that one, and have 3 lines of symmetry, and that is possible. But 1 line is perfect for me. So we're going to modify this form. So let's click modify, and you see that the thing I select is blue, the automatic is yellow. So we're going to click that. I'm going to hold shift, click that. So we've got 4 pieces now that have been selected. Okay, and all we're going to do is just stretch that out a bit there, and we can actually move it up if you want, and we can shrink it a little bit. Let's move it and shrink it, but don't worry about the size too much because we're going to be changing that a lot. Okay, no need to press enter. What you're going to do now is just select that one, shift and that one, and we're going to do exactly the same but for the other side. So we're just going to pull that one out there, and you can move that if you need to, or you can move that if you need to, but like I said, that's done. Okay, right, the next part is you can see that there's contours here. There are, like, it's pinched in the middle, it flays out at the end. That's more bulky, that's got a line in it. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert these lines. I'm going to double click this so you can see. You see, so we're going to actually insert more of these lines. To do that, we go modify, insert edge. If you click that, you're just going to get one. So if you double click that line, you should go all the way through. Now that's the line we're going to add, the green line. And if you're not happy with the placement, you can shift it around. So I definitely want a line about here, because that's where it comes out here and then it goes back in there. I'm going to add another line, so let's double click that line this time, insert the edge, and then put that there. So I'm going to squeeze that in as well. Now this comes out, so let's double click that, modify, and we're going to insert another edge, and probably want another one about there just to allow that to come in a bit. Now you don't have to do edges, you can subdivide the surface. So let's do that now. So let's say that if that was where the palm of my hand would be, that would probably be where my thumb is. So if I just click that and go edit and then modify and subdivide, you can see that I've just added a few more surfaces. The more surfaces you have, the more you can manipulate the product, the object, but of course the more work it's going to take. So yeah, a good balance. Okay, so how do these actually work? So first I want this part to come in. So if we have a look here, it's pinched in. So if I go modify, then double click, different way of doing it. Okay, so we've already seen how we can move. This one is to shrink, but we're going to tighten. Okay, so if we have a look here, if I tighten, there, it's like tightening your belt. Okay, so that's how that works. And of course, we can move up or down or forwards and backwards. Just manipulate these surfaces and try and get the shape right. I've already shown you how to do the lines. You can select individual lines, you can select individual faces, and of course you can select the vertices itself. So I'll stop talking and start moving all this. When you're modifying the faces, you've got to be careful that you don't create a crease. Okay, now a crease is like that, or if that's a fold, that's bad because they're overlapping each other, and of course that can't work. And that would be a crease because you can actually see that line is too sharp. Again, that doesn't work because it won't be able to compute it. So what you've got to do is just make sure you've got no creases. If you do have creases, when you finish the form, eventually Fusion will actually say you've got a big mistake going on, and it will go red. Fix any problems straight away. Worst case scenario, you can go to the history panel at the bottom, right click and edit. But if you edit and you've done loads of things since, then everything will be affected, and they might you might get a conflict. In fact, you probably will get a conflict. So I'm pretty happy with the shape and how it's following the profile of what I drew. Now we're going to work on the other side here. So if you can see very faintly, it's more of a like an oval. So I need to bring all this in because it's a bit fat. Okay, if you're happy with the overall shape, okay it and finish that form. Let's say worst case scenario, I clicked finish the form by accident and now I can't go back in. So what I can do here is remember edit, and that'll get me back in. Okay, and I'm just going to hide that. All right, so we've done the main body, and the main body will be one material. Now here I actually want this to be a rubber grip, and I want rubber letters. So if this was metal and this was rubber, then obviously the metal will be processed, manufactured in a completely different way to the rubber. So bearing that in mind, this rubber grip needs to be a completely separate body. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into create form, but this time we're going to go to faces. And when we do the faces, we're not going to just draw on the canvas, because if we draw on the canvas, it's going to be flat, and that's going to take a lot of manipulating. So what we're going to do is we're going to click Object Snap. Now, Object Snap means that the canvas that you're drawing on is no longer 2D, you're actually drawing on the 3D. So if I just hide that, you can almost see there the outline image, okay? Which is why my mouse doesn't feel like it's working, because the black dot where I'm about to draw is only clinging to the object itself, which makes life very, very easy. Now we are going to put the layout grid back on, and we are going to turn the canvases back on. We want to raise the rubber, so I want to offset that by 1 mil. So that means we're drawing just above the object, and but we're still clinging. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If you do smaller ones, it's going to be far more accurate, but it's going to take you quite a long time. So if you have a look here, you can see that it's sort of clinging, but it's also taking the shortest route. I'm just going to carry on now. Okay, let's make a mistake. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm looking for the blue circles. The blue circles mean they're snapping to the object. Okay, I'm not paying attention. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's a big problem. So what I've done is the surface has now overlapped itself. If that happens, when I press OK finish, this will stay very, very jaggedy and won't look organic. If that happens, I've got to go in here and I've got to delete. As soon as I delete the error, you can see we're going back to a more organic shape. To get back in, face, object snap. Remember, make sure you've got your offset. Start selecting, and then it will start to snap to the object and to what you've drawn. Let's do another mistake. I'm not paying attention, and now I've done this. So now the problem is here is if I was to join this with that, because I've made a gap, 1, 2, 3. 3 points is not going to work. If I say OK, it's not going back to that organic shape. So select your mistakes, delete them, go back to face, object snap, offset, and proceed. Okay, so that's done. Now you can actually see, obviously, we just saw that that is now raised, but it's not a proper body. The first thing we need to do is we're going to take that and we're going to reflect it over and duplicate it. To do that, we're going to go to Symmetry, Duplicate, this time not internal. The body is that. The mirror plane, because we placed everything with the red line going through the center, we can now click that plane as the mirror line because it is the center line parts. Now, of course, we do want them to join. So in order to join them, we're going to go Modify, and we're going to create a bridge. And this bridge, we only need one face, not 3. The side 1 will be that one there, and it's important to select all of it. Make sure it's all yellow. And side 2, just double click that, and there's the direction that it's going to go through. And now we can just press OK, and that has bridged it. Again, this is still not an actual body yet. It's a surface. So I said that the rubber grip would be 1 mil sticking out, but of course we're not going to just stick the rubber to the outside. We need to indent it, otherwise it's going to peel off. So I really want to make that rubber 2 mil or more thick. For this we'll actually make it 2 mil thick. So we're going to modify, we're going to thicken, which is down there. We're going to select, and we're going to type in 2, and that's the direction we want to go in. Okay, so that is now the rubber grip. So if I finish that form, now what we have is the body and the rubber grip onto it. Okay, so you can actually see that they are separate, and of course I can now hide that or hide that, so they're completely separate. We're going to use this because we know it's overlapping because it's 2 mil thick. We're going to use this to cut into this. So to do that, we're going to go Combine. Again, if you don't see it up here, you've got to go to Modify and then Combine. The target we want to cut is this one here. The tool we want to use is that top one there. We're going to cut it, do not join it, and you can see that's where it's going to cut. And we want to keep that tool, okay? So the thing we're using to cut we want to keep. This is also a good time to start labeling stuff. So in order to do that, just double click, okay, Let's hide that grip, and you should see there's that indentation. Okay. Right, the next part, I guess, would be to actually do the things that hold the bag. So sketch. So we're going to create a sketch straight onto the plane, which we know now is the mid plane. Would be a circle fitting into a circle. So I'm going to go a 2-point circle on that. And I'm just going to try and go straight across 10. Hide that rubber. We don't need that. We don't need that. And just move that where I actually want it. So let's just copy and paste. So what we're going to do for that is right click this one there. So that was the move copy. We're going to create a copy. And now we're going to move it. Don't move it before you create a copy. And that's just going to come down a little bit there. Okay. And that's good. Line tool. So I'm just going to click. Now you can see it's snapping. Look for this symbol. You see that circle that's appearing? Okay, so that means it's a tangent. So I'm actually going to go out like that and way above the body itself. And then stop. Again. So there. Okay, and I'm actually going to join that one to that one. And I'm just going to move it until I don't have that weird gap. If I press T, that's the trim tool there. And I can click that as well. When you're looking for any dots, if there are any dots here, you're going to have a problem later, so there'll be a circle. Right, let's do the same for this one. So these are my two profiles. I'm going to finish that. Bring back that main body. Shift, move, extrude. Select, select. This time we're going to go symmetric on this one. And we're going to drag it right out. And what happens is, because I'm already drawing a body on top of a body, it's going to assume that I want to cut. If I didn't want to cut, it's here. So cut, join, new body. But I do actually want to cut, so that's okay. And then OK that when you're happy. Now obviously we know that this is going to cut the bag, so we can't have that. So we've got to round these. So for that we can go fillet. And I can just do that using the handle, or I can do it using the numbers here. 2's okay. Okay, we just don't want it to slice the bag. Alright, let's do a radius edge on that side. That one we can do a lot more, so let's do 3 on that one. Just so you know, when you 3D print, you really want a flat side, so it is in your best interest to 3D print this separately out of the flexible filament. And with this one, you really want to split that in half. So to split that in half, split body. Again, if you can't see it, you know where to look now. Split the body. The body to split is there, and the tool we're going to split is that middle plane that we've been using. Okay, now that means that when let's just turn these canvases off. When I print that, I can now print it on the bed like that, and then it will print up this way, and that's a lot easier.